Hi everybody, wanted to pop on here and talk about one of my latest pickups, a brand new Blu-ray straight from Hong Kong. Always fantastic to get imports from that region of the world. I love getting stuff from Hong Kong, especially things that are either difficult to find here, never came out here at all, or the only version that came out here is very cheaply produced and not so great, like a Region Zero DVD copied off of a really poor transition from like a VHS or like a Laserdisc. A lot of times stuff that is even available here, it's available but not so great. That's one of the few things that's great about formats like Laserdisc, being able to import things directly from Hong Kong, and also for certain films that have been given a great treatment on Blu-ray. And that's one of my pickups here, was the Inspector Wears Skirts. So I've always enjoyed this late 80s movie, fantastic, a lot of fun. It stars a whole host of really great female actresses from the mid to late 80s in a lot of Hong Kong movies, some of which really only acted in the 80s and 90s. Actresses like Sybil Hu, who started in the late 70s and continued, I think she only acted primarily through the late 90s, movies like Your Smiling Face from the late 70s or The Seventh Curse from the 80s. She stars as Madame Wu, who is in charge of training an all-female Hong Kong police force. And it starts off as the very typical, they need to learn to get along, but there's infighting and they're being disrespected by their male counterparts as they're at this training facility. They are right next door. Their next door neighbors are a training camp of male officers who are very chauvinistic, and their ideas of the time, they need to prove to themselves, their abilities to themselves and also to their instructor, and also prove themselves to their male counterparts, which they end up doing by really outclassing them in certain respects, and then eventually leading to them being involved in a very dangerous case, which turns into a very 80s Hong Kong action flick. And it's one of those films that in some points, especially early on, it feels very much like one of the Police Academy movies, but with a more of a Hong Kong style twist, and it's very funny, and then moves more into some later stages where it's more of a straight 80s Hong Kong action flick with some really good martial arts moments sprinkled throughout. We also get a few scenes with a character played by Cynthia Rothrock, who again is on here rocking it with her skills. She is someone who is a fantastic martial artist, and especially on screen she can really show off some great moves and really plays to the visual elements of martial arts. Even though a lot of her movies are very B-movie, not that great, she does have genuine talent that I think is not always given quite the level of respect as some of her male counterparts at the same time. And I think that this is one of those ones where she's not one of the main roles, but she's in enough to really kind of show off and show what she can do. And everyone in here, I mean, it's again, if you really think about it, it's such a generic, in many ways, late 80s movie, very one-dimensional in some respects, but as you go through it, there's something about it that is just innately charming. And that's what is great about this movie, is that every one of the people involved in here, all the actors and actresses, they all kind of take their character, who is really just this one-dimensional unit in a very stereotypical action comedy of the time, of a police force, training through the ranks, and then at the end, oh my gosh, they solved a great case, and they're wonderful, and they really prove themselves. They take that and they elevate it beyond that through sheer likability. There's really no extreme depth in here. There's enough that you want to get to know these characters and you get involved in what's happening, but it's nothing that's really going to bring home this incredible message. It's really not going to sit and you're not going to sit and think forever about all the little nuances of the film, but everyone in here is just so likable in their performance, and every element of it, from the comedy to the action, is just so genuinely enjoyable that it is elevated beyond its premise just in the entertainment factor alone. And in some cases, that's just all you can really ask for a movie is it entertaining? Did you enjoy watching that hour and a half, 2 hours of movie? Absolutely, it's fantastic, and audiences agreed when this came out. It was fairly popular, and actually spun off several movies. I think there's 4 of them, and then an additional spin-off as well, and I think there's been a couple like spin-offs that are just like one or two characters are carried over and they're not really related, but they're kind of related. It just kind of was something that was just a good enough late 80s fun, entertaining movie that it was able to spawn off into many different little things here just from being a fun experience that was remastered on Blu-ray. This is the best version I've ever seen of this film. It looks and sounds fantastic. I actually think, unless it's been taken down, I remember a few years ago seeing a copy of a VCD version that was put up on YouTube, and you can find that. A couple different ways you can find this movie, but as far as a really good official release, this Fortune Star Blu-ray is fantastic and has full English support, subtitles throughout the whole thing. Audio is both in Cantonese and Mandarin, and then subtitles are in traditional Chinese and English, and the only special feature really is the trailer. Nothing too incredibly special there, but to have such a fun 80s movie, a really quality version of such a fun 80s movie, and to be able to import that and play that no problem, and has full English support for the subtitles and all the menus and everything, that is great. Definitely a fun movie if you're into movies of that era, and you're into Hong Kong comedy or Hong Kong action flicks from the 80s and you haven't seen this. Pick it up, try and find this copy if you can, import it. It wasn't very expensive, wasn't too hard to find, so this Fortune Star release here, absolutely love this, and I have another Hong Kong import of a different format that I will be talking about another time.